Good morning. Welcome to this episode of Refill with Randy. Grab your favorite cup, fill it up, and let's start this day right together. Today, I want to kind of follow up a little bit on last week's talk. For those that maybe weren't here, I just shared a little bit about how I went from trying to run for the very first time, doing a couch to 5K, and eventually being able to finish a half marathon, thanks to the help of my friends and those that came back and helped me, encourage me to get to the end. Well, today I want to share a little bit about the next half marathon. You know, every race is different, and this one was very different for me. You see, 2011, September, that was when I ran that first half marathon, and I actually felt fantastic afterward. I did have some side effects down the road, how it affected my back and my knees and so forth, but as far as that day, you know, I could have ran longer later on, I think. And so I was already starting to think of the next year. Well, I did some running from that time on. I did some more races past that. I put some pics up of the Halloween race last time. I went as Batman. My buddy Jack went as the Joker. The funniest part of all that was that we had to stop at Walmart on the way to the race in full costume, and no one even batted an eye. Now, I got through the winter. I was doing my doctoral work at the time. In fact, I had just done my January on-campus training, my last 2 classes that I needed. I had just gotten home. That's when I got a call that my father had not been doing well. He had been sick for years, congestive heart failure, heart attacks, you name it. But we had always kind of seen him come through, even from the worst of things. So they had talked to me about it. They had, let me know their thoughts, because I was so tired. I had just gotten home, and at the time he was 2 hours away down in the Gary Homes. And so I was just trying to figure out what I should do. And they said, well, why don't you get a good night's sleep tonight, wait and see what happens tomorrow. So I took their suggestion. I got a good night's sleep. Next day I called. Dad was doing great. We were able to talk. I was able to pray with him. He just sounded good. And they were saying just, how he had rallied. It was really great. And so I thought, well, I'll wait and come down on the weekend. And then 3 a.m. that morning, I got the call that Dad had passed away. It quite a bit of shock. And then fast forward, I had been trying to take care of all these things, again, from over 2 hours away, with the funeral home, calling people, calling family. One of the people who I obviously called was my mother. Even though they had been separated for years, she still lived in the area, and she helped me out with Dad quite a bit. When I called Mom, I waited until it was a little bit later in the morning, 7, 8 o'clock. And when she answered, she just seemed very strange. And when I told her about Dad, she just didn't react at all. And I thought, well, you know what? She's been sick. She sounded sick anyway. Maybe, she took some NyQuil and I woke her up and she's disoriented. So I let it go. But then I called back later. She didn't even remember me calling and continued to act strange. So then I asked some others to go down. My best friends were in the area. It was their anniversary and they were out to eat by where she was living. So they went in and checked on her, and Jason called me and said, we think maybe she had a stroke. And so they were going to take her down to the hospital, WCA there. Well, they ran some tests, said, nope, no stroke. They thought that her electrolytes were off balance, and they said, it could be 3-4 days to kind of get things underway, but she should be fine. So I'm thinking, okay, well, I'm going to be traveling down to do the funeral, and then I can go and check up on her, and then hopefully she'll be fine by the time we come back. They said, we're just going to do one more test just to be clear. About 45 minutes later, Jason and Jessica called me again. They said, meet us in Buffalo. They had done a CAT scan and had discovered a tumor the size of a softball. And it was a shock. It was disorienting. And so here, 3 a.m., I'm at Buffalo Hospital, and I'm getting her diagnosis that she has a glioblastoma, which is a very aggressive terminal brain cancer. It was quite a 24 hours. We had Dad's funeral. Unfortunately, it was one of those things that was very quick because I had to get back to the one who was still alive. And Mom was still very disoriented before she had surgery to remove most of the tumor. She thought she was staying in a very nice hotel, which I guess there could be worse things. But after the surgery, even though she was in no pain, she was never the same. It had damaged, part of her frontal lobe. She had no filter, which can make it tough at times. And she had to have chemo and radiation every day. And so we moved her in with us. And for a few months, we took care of her. We did home hospice. It was a very trying time. And yet I'm thankful that we could do it. I'm so thankful my wife Cheryl just stepped up in major ways to make it happen. My kids, helped out, especially Ashlyn. She was the oldest at that age and cared for Grandma. But finally, it was getting near the end, and we couldn't do hospice in our home anymore. We just physically could not take care of her the way that she needed to be taken care of. They had not built hospice yet here in Albion. They were just underway, and we heard about a place called the Aurora House out in Spencerville on Union Road. But we're told that Monroe County gets first dibs, and then Genesee, and then Orleans. There's only 2 beds, and they've never had someone from Orleans get in before. We prayed. The next day I got a call and said, could you bring her today? And so we did, and it was a godsend, and I'm so grateful, so thankful for that. And for 2 weeks I was able to stay there. Unbelievable nurses, unbelievable volunteer staff. Hospice in general is just a fantastic agency, and one that, as a pastor, I had often kind of joined forces with, and now being on the other side, even more grateful, because for 2 weeks, rather than being Mom's caregiver, I got to be her son. When as it got near the end, I was getting so tired. In the last few days, I just hadn't wanted to leave her side at all. That's when my buddy Jack showed up, and he said, you need to go down and get some sleep. I'm going to stay here. I'm going to watch over her. I won't leave. That way you can sleep. And so he kind of stood in the gap for me. And I'll never forget that, because I got some sleep. And kind of like with my father, it was preparation, because that very next day, my mother did pass. Now, just prior to her passing, the staff there said, maybe you should just give her a little bit of time. You've been in here, let's clean her up a little bit. We'll change your clothes. And, you just need to go outside for a little bit. And Cheryl was there with me. So we went outside. During that time, we ended up talking about running and so forth. And in the midst of our conversation, I had this fantastic inspiration to sign up for the half marathon in September again. And this is the end of May, just past Memorial Day. I had a whole lot of time to train, and I hadn't been training up till then. Too much else going on. And I signed Cheryl up too. I figured, well, she's not going to say a whole lot about it while we're in the midst of this. Well, 15 minutes later, we got called in, and Mom passed away. And then I told Cheryl, because I figured I was covered at that point. And she was not so excited about it, but reluctantly, she did begin training. Now, unfortunately, just because of the situation, I had actually tried to run a race the next week after this, our hometown Strawberry Fest race. I got about 2 miles when I collapsed, and I actually ended up going to the hospital via the ambulance. They thought I'd had a heart attack. Turned out it was just a lot of stress, mental and emotional stress. Adding the physical stress in, not the best idea. And so I got laid up there for a while. My church board decided to have me go on sabbatical for 6 weeks just to kind of rest up some. And so training was put off. And I don't know about you, but as I was going through some grief and depression, sometimes, I don't feel like doing much. You don't get motivated. Eat too much. I put a lot of the weight back on that I had taken off the year before. And as it got close to September, there was the realization that there was no way I was going to be able to run this race. Now, Cheryl was even less excited when she found out that I had signed us both up, and now I wasn't running, but she still was. But that's where my buddy Jack came in. Jack came to me and he said, I'm going to run the race for you. And up to this point, he had never ran that far. He had never done a half marathon. And so he really got training. And come the day of the race, I was on the sidelines. I was cheering. I was taking pics and videos. And here at the end of the race, Cheryl came in. And I think she beat my time by a little over a minute, which I probably won't live down until I can do another half marathon. But shortly after came Jack. And you could tell, probably how I looked the year before. It was wearing on him, but he made it across the line. They put the medal around his neck. He walked up. First thing he did was he took it off. He handed it to me and he said, "This is yours for Mom." One year ago, I had ran that race and I had finished it. And we're down to my friend Matt Jones. This year, I couldn't do it, but once again, he stood in the gap. He ran the race for me. And at the end, he gave me the medal, and I still have it. That's a lot like what Jesus has done for us. In Hebrews chapter 12, It talks about a race. It talks about getting rid of the things that could cause us to stumble or trip us up. And one of the key things it says is that we need to fix our eyes on Jesus, the author and perfecter of our faith. What that means to me is not only did he, lay out the whole course, but he finished it. And he finished it for you and for me because we could not do it on our own. There's no way I was going to finish that race on my own. There's no way any of us can finish the Christian race alone. We're not good enough. You can't give enough money. You can't do enough works. We're never going to do it. And that's why Christ did it for us. And he says, don't try to do everything that I've already done, but follow me. He's not going to lead us astray. He's going to keep us from going to the left or to the right. We're going to follow him. And so today, I just want to encourage you, as you have begun this 2020 leg of the race. There are going to be some obstacles along the way. There are going to be some things that could potentially trip you up in your walk, in your faith, just in how you're representing Christ on a daily basis. But just because they're there doesn't mean that you have to hit each one. If you keep your eyes on Jesus, you're going to miss them all. You're going to swerve around them. And so, again, just like I said last week, commit yourself this year. Be in the Word daily. Be in prayer daily. Be in church every week. Everyone's leaving church. Well, I don't want to be a part of that. I want to follow Christ, but I don't want the church. Well, the church is Christ's body. And it's not perfect because it's filled with us and we're not perfect. But we still need one another. And just as much as you need the testimony and gifts of the people who are in that church, they need your witness and your gifts as well. So don't just throw up your hands and walk away. Be a part of a local church, be a part of a small group, be a part of an adult Bible fellowship, whatever it is, get an accountability partner, but commit yourself to grow to becoming mature and more like Jesus Christ this year. And as you do it, keep your eyes fixed on him. Have a great day.